Hey, welcome everybody to the top producer class for Mortgage Mastermind Group. I'm Paul Baxter. I'm the implementation coach. I'm definitely here to help you grow. Guys, girls, we've got a awesome class for you today, and the idea of today's class came to me over the last couple of weeks, and golly, I guess over the last month or so. A lot of our daily mastermind classes, when we mastermind and we're having conversations, they revolve around how we overcome objections and what agents say when we're trying to get those meetings or when we're at those meetings, and the objections that they're throwing at us and being able to quickly overcome them. It's the same conversations that I'm having with my one-on-one coaching clients and during the one-on-one sessions. We're talking a lot about objections and overcoming the objections. And so I wanted to take the time today for us to really dive in. There's really only a few basic objections that you're going to hear in those initial opportunities to set up. You know, what we're talking about specifically is objections that you hear when you're calling up to set up those first appointments, when you're trying to develop or trying to create the relationship. That's really the only time you're going to hear objections from real estate agents. Because what you're trying to sell is an opportunity, and you're hearing them then in the beginning because they don't know, trust, or like us yet. And so you've got to break through that, and you've got to overcome a couple of objections. But having the ability and knowing what they are and having something in your mind already that you're going to be able to overcome that objection and move on from can give you an advantage when you're talking about making those calls, because 98% of the loan officers out there, let's face it, I'm going to straight up tell you that every coaching group that's available to you in terms of mortgage training, we're all teaching you to pick up the phone and make calls for the ultimate goal of getting face-to-face. That's what we're all coaching about, is how to get face-to-face with potential referral partners. We all have a different way and different styles and different methods of getting you there, but in essence, we're all telling the loan officers to pick up the phone and make those calls and set up those one-on-ones, set up those face-to-face opportunities, right? And so what we're going to talk about today are the objections that you're going to hear. Most of the loan officers don't have any of that information. They just get the objection and they're taught to, okay, just move on to the next one. It's a numbers game. You just play this numbers game, make that call. If they say no, move on to the next one. There's 2,000 real estate agents in your area. Yeah, there certainly are. But when you talk about how many of them are actually producing real estate agents, how many of them are actually worth your business time, how many of them are actually worth you taking that opportunity and developing that relationship with, that number becomes smaller and smaller. So if you're just burning up the phone calling every single agent and taking that first objection, moving on to the next one, well, you're losing great opportunities. And so if you have some ammunition in terms of overcoming those objections, you're going to move forward, you're going to be doing better, and you're going to be doing more than the guy next to you. And I loved this graphic when I saw it because it reminds me of a real estate agent sitting at their desk. It's the mental image I get when I think about a real estate agent and that initial phone call, and they start throwing stuff at you, those initial objections. Oh, I'm already working with somebody. Oh, I'm just way too busy. Oh, blah, blah. When they start throwing those initial objections at you, this is what I picture is they got this little thing at their desk, and they're trying to blow as much smoke into the air as they possibly can, hoping that you can't see them behind it. That's what a smokescreen is to me. So real estate agent targets have a few objections. It's really not even a whole lot of objections that you're going to hear that they use to try and shield them from our calls, because they get a lot of them from loan officers. Everybody's trying to call loan officers. 99% of the objections that you hear are nothing more than a smokescreen. Now, there is one objection that you're going to hear that is not a smokescreen. I'm retiring from the business next week. That's an objection you're going to hear, that they won't meet you because they're retiring from the business next week. That's not a smokescreen. That's probably real, and that's one that you can accept. So I couldn't say 100% were smokescreens, but a vast majority of the objections that you hear are going to be smokescreen objections. The first time you call them can be a cold or it can be a warm call, and that designation is dependent solely on you. I heard that 12 months ago and he never retired. Well, maybe that one was a smokescreen on that one, my friend. Who's going to take care of your database after retirement? Yep, there's some opportunities with retirement as well, gentlemen. Absolutely. Now, again, the first time you call them can either be cold or warm, and that designation, whether it's a cold call or a warm call, is entirely dependent on you and what you have established in your follow-up plan. And that's a whole other class that we did just last week, or the week before last, excuse me, where we talked about follow-up plans and the importance. Notice that a lot of the strategies, a lot of the things that you talk about in terms of, you know, what we do here, they all tend to tie together. Having a good follow-up plan can make what you're doing in terms of your calls much easier. It can make getting those face-to-faces much easier. It can make those face-to-faces a little bit warmer, so it all ties in together. So a cold call tends to create a rough, uncomfortable feeling. Now, I'm going to talk about feelings a lot when we talk about these calls, because remember, people buy based on a feeling that we create. When we're talking about referral partnerships, we are talking about asking a real estate agent to buy a meeting with us. It is a buying decision that they're making. So we do talk about it in terms of closing the sale or buying what you're selling. And when somebody's buying something, they buy based on how you make them feel, not based on what you said. So it is a feeling that we're looking to create. So when we're making a cold call, it does create a little bit of a rough, uncomfortable feeling for you and the recipient of the other end. But it can be effective if you go into the cold call with the right mindset. And that mindset is that you're warming them up for subsequent calls. You have to go into that cold call, that very first cold call. You are going to say the things that are asking for the business. Hey, Miss J, I understand I know that you're serious about growing your real estate business. I would love to treat you to a cup of coffee, get to know you a little bit better. I've got Thursday at 3 or Friday at 2, which is better for you. You still say that same script, but no going into it. No, your mindset can't get spun out when I'm already working with somebody. I'm just too busy. I don't know. They don't know, trust, or like you. So that cold call is always going to be a little bit rougher. It's always going to feel a little bit harder. But if you go into the mindset of you're making that call because you want to be able to have warmer calls later on down the line, then those calls can be quite effective if they're cold calls. Warm calls creates a warmer feeling. Not quite trust, but a feeling of knowing who is calling. It's not quite trust, but it's very, very close when you have a warmer call. They feel like they know who's calling, and it can be most effective in getting that very first appointment. The mindset of a warm call has to be of getting a face-to-face meeting. Now, what's the difference in a cold call and a warm call? A cold call is one that they've never seen your name, they've never gotten anything from you, you've never shaken their hand, you've never sent them anything of value, you've never sent them a greeting card, you've never handed them a open house care kit, any of those things. That's a cold call. A warm call is somebody that's been getting a video from you over the last 6 months every single week. That's a person that's connected to you on Facebook and you've liked a few of their comments. That's a person that is getting your invitation every week to the training class that you have access to. That's the agent that was at the live training you did 2 weeks ago at the local title company. That's who a warm call is. That's the difference. It's all about your follow-up system. Do you have things in place that are allowing you to set up those warm calls? Now, we're talking specifically about objections today, so I'm not going to dive too much into the difference of a warm or how you get a warm call versus a cold call. We're talking specifically about objections. But the first time you call those objections, you'll get the same objections. Whether it's cold or warm, you're still going to get the objections. It's likely you're going to hear those smokescreen objections the first time you call, anytime you do a trial close. Remember, 90% of sales take place after the third no. It's important to remember that. Cold or warm, you've got to remember that 90% of sales take place after the third no. So when you ask them for that face-to-face meeting for the first time, whether it's warm or cold, you're likely going to get no. That's okay, though. You're closer to the sale each time you do a trial close. Right? So what are the most common objections? I think, and based on my conversations with you guys one-on-one, based on our conversations during our mastermind times, the single most common objection that I hear you guys say is, I am already working with another lender. Oh, I'm already working with another lender. That's the most common objection that you guys tell me that you hear when you were calling on agents to set up appointments. And the way that you overcome that is simply, of course you are. Agree with them. Of course you're already working with another lender. You would not have the awesome real estate business going if you didn't. I'm not looking to interfere with that relationship at all. I'm looking for an opportunity to get to know more about you and your business and see if there are some things I can do to help you continue to grow it. If we get an opportunity to work together down the line, great. If not, I've gotten a cool opportunity to meet and get to know a great real estate business leader and hopefully help you in your continued success. So what I did there is I overcame the objection, and then I brought it right back to why it would be a good opportunity or why it would benefit them to meet with me. So the objection actually is that they're working with somebody else. They're already working with somebody. That's the objection. You overcome that by simply acknowledging the objection. Of course you are. And then letting them know that you're okay with that. I'm not looking to interfere with that. So now your objection, I'm working with somebody else. Of course you are. I'm not looking to interfere with that. That objection is out the window. It no longer is relevant to the rest of our conversation. It's no longer relevant to the rest of our conversation. And James, I'll show that to you again. And keep in mind, guys, this PowerPoint will be available with the class in the recording section to the top producer interview section. The PowerPoint will be there. I fully intend on making this PowerPoint available so you guys have these scripts. And again, the script is very basic. You know, hey, of course you're already working with another lender. You wouldn't have the awesome real estate business going if you weren't. I'm not looking to interfere with that relationship at all. I'm just looking for an opportunity to get to know more about you and your business and see if there are some things I can do to help you continue to grow it. And if I get an opportunity to work together down the line, awesome. If not, I've gotten a cool opportunity to meet and get to know a really great real estate business leader and hopefully help you in your continued success. Does that sound fair? Again, 15, 20 minutes to get to know whether or not I can help you in your business with no ulterior motive, Mr. Agent. So it's a very basic script. But again, the overcoming of the objection is all in that first line. Of course you're working with somebody else. I don't want to interfere with that. Of course you're working with somebody else. I don't want to interfere with that. That's all it takes to overcome that objection. I don't want to interfere with that. That objection's out the window now. It's no longer relevant to our conversation. But then you reiterate the benefit of meeting with you to see if you can help them grow their business. And then always remember the goal of the call. And the goal of that call is to get face-to-face. So you bring it right back. You overcome that objection, and then you bring it right back to what your goal is to get face-to-face. Of course you're working with somebody. You wouldn't have the awesome real estate business going if you didn't. And I'm not looking to interfere with that. What I'm looking for is an opportunity to meet a really cool person, get to know you a little bit better, and find out if there's some things I can do to help you grow your business. If we get to work it together down the line, awesome. If not, I've gotten an opportunity to meet a really cool real estate business leader that has a great business and hopefully help you with your continued success. That's what I'm looking to do. So it's overcome the objection by letting them know that that's okay. You know, you fully, and guys and girls, you have to be calling, when you're calling on real estate agents, please have the mindset going into those calls that they already are working with somebody. Here's the thing, they can't get to the closing table without a lender. So they are working with somebody. In some way, shape, or form, they are working with somebody. So you've got to go into that call with that mindset. And it has to be okay that they're working with somebody and that you're not looking to interfere with that. Remember, that whole strategy, your whole thing is you're looking to help them grow their business. It goes back to Zig Ziglar, if I can help, if I can help enough people to get what they want, everything in life will come to you, right? If you can help enough people to get what they want, you got to have that true, unadulterated feeling that you want to help them. Because if you do truly, indeed help them grow their business, guess what? You will do business with them down the line. That opportunity will come. Okay? The next objection that I hear most often from you guys is, I am way too busy to meet with you. I am way too busy to meet with you. All right? There are several ways to overcome this one, and there are lots of different things you can say with this one. I'm going to give you a couple of basic scripts, and understand that you can take these scripts and you can tweak them. For that call, ring, ring, hey, I'd like to meet with you Thursday 3, Friday at 2. Oh, man, I am just way too busy. I can imagine with as awesome a real estate business as you have, you stay pretty busy. I would love to be a fly on the wall at your office sometime and watch how you operate your business. I'll call you another time and see if I can pick your brain about how you run such a successful real estate business. I will still treat you to that cup of coffee, delivery style. So now you're saying you want to come to them. You're offering to bring that coffee to them, but you're overcoming that objection by simply agreeing with them. Now, with this objection specifically, if they're saying that to you, you're not going to convince them that the day after tomorrow's Thursday or this Thursday or next Thursday is the right time. So what you've got to do is you've got to get yourself permission to call them back. You've got to give yourself permission. Again, this is a smokescreen objection all day long. The reality is they're not too busy to stop for 15 minutes for a cup of coffee. They're not too busy to meet with you. They don't know, trust, or like you yet, so they're throwing up a smokescreen to distract you. It worked for the last 10 loan officers that called. They got off the phone with them. It's going to work for you too. So this objection, what you're looking to do is give yourself a reason or give yourself permission to call them again. I'll call you another time and see if I can pick your brain about how you run such a successful real estate business. I'll call you another time to see if you're a little less busy. Right? One of the things I'm known for is helping real estate agents get less busy with their business. Would that be a benefit to you? Now, that can get a little confrontational if it's the same objection over and over. Typically, they throw one at you at a time, and at the end of the third one, you've got your opportunity. But with this one, you're just looking to give yourself permission to call them back, to get to the next objection with them, right? The objection is that they're too busy. You're going to overcome it by offering to come to them, use their ego to facilitate it. I would love to see how you run such a great real estate business. And now you're going to come to them. But again, the main thing you got to realize with this objection specifically is that you're giving yourself that permission to call back with, I will call you another time to see if I can pick your brain. They're going to agree to that because, again, their initial objection is just to get off, it's a smokescreen to get off the phone with you. And by saying, I'll call you another time to see if I can pick your brain, you're giving them that out, right? You're giving them the out. And we talked about this yesterday. Here's another way to overcome that objection. Are you too busy to eat? I'll meet you for breakfast or lunch on your schedule. We can get to know each other while we share a meal. That one, I must give credit where credit is due, is courtesy of our good friend Greg Frost via Jim Rice shared that with us the other day, that's when Greg Frost gets that objection, that's kind of the way he overcomes it. Are you too busy to eat? Ha ha. And make sure, you don't want to be confrontational. I can't stress enough, especially on the first few times you're calling them, don't be, if you've called them 10 times and they've told you no to a meeting 10 times, go ahead and get confrontational. At that point, you've got nothing to lose. But in the beginning, they don't know, trust, or like you. That is likely the reason for them saying no. There's no other reason for it. it's a blow-off, but it's a smokescreen blow-off. It's not because they don't like you. It's not because they think you're a horrible person. They just don't know who you are yet. So those first few calls, let it go. Maybe 10 calls in, you may get a little confrontational. But be careful how you say, are you too busy to eat? You don't want to sound as if you're being condescending to them. And so you say it with a little bit of lightheartedness, a little bit of laughter in your voice. Are you too busy to eat? I'll meet you for breakfast, lunch, on your schedule. Whenever's good for you, man. We can get to know each other while we share a meal. That's hard to say no to, because it really is, you know, the reality is if they say, yeah, I really am too busy to eat, I eat on the run, is the only place they can go with that. And then at that point, I would just simply say, well, brother, it sounds like you need a nice sit-down, relaxing meal. What if we head over to the Vinoy for lunch this afternoon? I'll take you to Ponce in there. Everybody knows that. It's a nice restaurant. People know it in my area. But you can overcome both those ways. And I love this objection because it's so clearly a smokescreen objection. The other day, and I don't have the script for this because we talked about it the other day, Peggy had mentioned she has been hearing, oh, I'm just too busy. How about get in touch with me after the first of the year? Which that agent is saying that from now through December, they are going to be too busy to meet with you for a cup of coffee or for a cup of or for a lunch or whatever you're inviting them to. And what we talked about is overcome that objection the same way you would with what we just said. You know, I'd love to pick your brain, maybe play on their ego a little bit. I'd like to, you know, it sounds like you're too busy. I'll give you a call another time to find out if there's a time I can pick your brain as to what you're doing that's keeping you so busy during this time of year. And kind of ignore that whole thing about you don't want to embarrass them, because if they really thought about saying that they know they're going to be too busy for a cup of coffee between now and the first of the year, that they're really just blowing you off and they've got no interest in meeting with you. So ignore that part is kind of the way that I go about that. I didn't include that as part of the scripts here today, but I wanted to make sure we talked about it a little bit, because it's important to know that not every part of these objections are something that you've got to address, you know, especially if it's something, you know, I work with one lender and one lender only, and I'm not interested ever in having any other relationship. That whole extra part, I work with another lender. That's all you needed to hear. The extra part was just to get you off the phone. Listen, I can appreciate, of course you're working with another lender. I'm not looking to interfere with that. You just ignore the other part about ever, never, ever changing it, right? Just ignore that part about never, ever, ever changing it. Okay? I can appreciate being busy. I would love to pick your brain about what you're doing that is keeping you so busy. I'll call you another time to see if you're a little less busy. So again, what I'm doing there is I'm just giving myself permission to call back. You're using this as a tool to set up that second call. It's giving yourself permission, because they're going to ignore when. They're just happy that whatever they said is for them working, they're getting you off the phone. But by saying, I'll give you a call another time to see if you're a little less busy, you're giving yourself permission, and they're agreeing to that. So now you get to that next opportunity to overcome an objection, because again, sales take place, 90% of sales happen after the third no, so we need to overcome as many objections or as quickly as possible so we can get them to that face-to-face meeting. The other big objection that we hear quite a bit, especially when a lender is calling a real estate agent, they think because again, going back to what we talked about at the beginning of this class, that, you know, everybody out there is calling on real estate agents. It's just what's going on. Everybody's calling real estate agents, right? Everybody. And so when lenders call them, they think, you know, their first thought is, oh, lender wants referrals. That's what most are calling up, saying, hi, this is so-and-so. I'd love an opportunity to meet with you and talk to you about possibly being a partner with you and how I can help you get to the closing table faster, blah, 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 blah. Same old smoke, same old everything. And so an easy way for agents to get away from that I work with listings only. So most loan officers, so, well, they're not going to have any buyers. I need buyers. That's a listing guy. They're not for me. Okay, thank you for telling me goodbye. And they're off the phone. I think the ones that tell you that they only work with listings, that is probably the best opportunity for you. That is, I think it's a fantastic opportunity, because the reality is it's a smokescreen. It's a smokescreen objection. It has worked for all of the other lenders that they've called on, but not for you. Because here's the reality of the situation. Remembering that we only target above average real estate agents. Remember, National Association says that the average real estate agent does 4 to 6 transactions per year. That's what the average does. So we've talked about it till we're blue in the face. We do not target average or below average real estate agents. We are not playing a numbers game. We are targeting above average agents, agents that have the ability to refer us business when we develop a partnership and we say, hey, is there anybody you need help getting to the closing table with? They have the ability to say, oh, yes, can you please call Mr. and Mrs. Smith? I showed them a house yesterday. They needed a pre-approval so they can make an offer, right? That's why you target above average agents. Now, if you're only targeting above average agents, there is no above average agent worth their salt that is a listing agent that's going to tell you that they're not interested in both halves of the transaction. So for an agent to tell you they don't deal with buyers at all is, well, first of all, it's a good indicator that you're not dealing with an above average agent. You may be dealing with one of those below average or non-producing agents. And the other thing is it's a smokescreen. They're just trying to get rid of you, because a good agent, an agent worth their salt, they definitely want both sides. Even if they're focused on the listings, they focus on getting more listings. When a buyer does contact them, I guarantee you they're interested in selling that home. They would love to have both sides of the transaction. Okay, so those are your good agents. Those are the ones that you want to be targeting. It's a smokescreen, and even if it's not a smokescreen, that they only focus on that, you can still say, I can appreciate that. I have some very cool ideas that can help you get more listings. I would love to treat you to a cup of coffee and share with you some of those cool strategies for winning more listings. Now you're talking their language. Now I'm overcome. They work with listings. Okay, I'd like to meet with you because I've got some strategies for winning more listings. I didn't say anything about, well, would you be opposed to working with buyers if you got buyers? If a buyer called you, would you not refer them to me if I were to help you get more? I'm not trying to sell them anything. Remember, my goal is to get them to that face-to-face meeting. Right? My goal of this call is to get them to the face-to-face meeting, not try to sell them that just because they're a listing agent doesn't mean that they can't work with buyers, or that having a relationship with a loan officer is not still a benefit to them, because I can help get pre-approvals and move the transaction faster, which is a benefit to their sellers because the sellers are getting their, selling their home faster and moving on with their lives in a much quicker fashion. I'm not trying to sell them all that stuff. All I'm trying to do is get an opportunity to meet with them face to face, develop a relationship, determine if we're a good fit. I can talk to them about the benefits of buyers and both sides of the transaction later on down the line. My goal is to get to the face to face. And so I overcoming the objection of I only work with listings is simply to point out the benefit of meeting with you. I can help you get more listings. That's all you have to do to overcome that objection. It's a very simple one to overcome. Again, your goal is to get face-to-face. You're not trying to sell them on why it would be important for a listing agent to have a relationship with a lender. You don't need to tell them, well, I also work with the seller of the home to help them with the transition into their new home when their home does sell. You're not selling them that bill of goods yet. It's just I can appreciate that. I have very cool ideas that can help you get more listings. I would love to treat you to a cup of coffee and share with you some of those cool strategies for winning more listings. paint the benefit. That's the best way to overcome that objection. And again, it is a smokescreen objection because the targets, the people who you're targeting, they're not going to object to two sides of a transaction typically. They understand the value of that, and they do get some buyers. They do still get access to buyers. But being part of the relationship with the selling agent as well as the listing agent, excuse me, gives you opportunities on multiple sides. They have databases. They deal with sellers who then have to purchase a new home. So there's opportunities there too. There's no reason why not to have a relationship. But don't try and sell them on that relationship when overcoming that objection. Simply remind them or give them a benefit of why a listing agent would benefit from meeting with you, a lender, right? When overcoming objections, and guys, those three are the three main. When you get past those three main objections, when you're talking about calling on real estate agents to meet with you, when you get past those three, they vary. There's lots of different objections that you're going to hear, but they vary. One of the things I recommend, and I probably should have included this in the presentation today, it just kind of struck me. One thing I definitely recommend to you guys is when you're making your calls to real estate agents to set up those face-to-faces, and when you hear a brand new objection that you haven't heard before, when they throw another smokescreen at you that you haven't heard before, make sure that you write it down. Type it into a Word doc. Send yourself a text message. Send yourself a private. Write it on your notepad that's sitting next to you. And then come up with a script for overcoming that objection. Send it to me, for goodness sake, and I'll help you come up with a script. I'll be more than glad to do that. But that's the best way to know, is to give yourself, to have this ongoing list of objections that you hear and how to overcome them. Now, when it comes to objections, and the reason I chose these three is because most of everything else that you hear is a variation of these three main objections. These are the three main objections that you hear, and everything else is typically a variation of those objections. Okay? And so keep that in mind as you're going through it. Practice, when it comes to overcoming objections, practice does make perfect. The more you practice overcoming the objections, the more efficient you are when you hear them, the easier it flows out of your mouth, the easier it just comes to you how you're going to overcome it. And when we're talking about objections, to me, what we're specifically focused on here today is objections that you get when you're talking about meeting with real estate agents. The only real reason for these objections is that they don't know you, they don't trust you, and they don't like you yet. Okay, you're only getting them, you're only selling a face-to-face meeting. Their only buying decision is yes or no, will they meet with you? And the only reason to have an objection and to say no is because they don't know or trust you or like you yet. So these objections are all just smoke screens. And they're all a variation of the three that we came over. So understanding that overcoming the lender objection, that's the big one. Yes, of course you're working with another lender. You wouldn't be doing the business that you're doing now if you weren't. And I'm not looking to interfere with that. Done. And then bring it back to why it would benefit them to meet with you. Why it would benefit to meet with you. I'm just way too busy. Well, you've got a great real estate business. Of course you're busy. Man, I can appreciate being busy. Listen, I'd love to pick your brain a little bit and find out what you're doing in your real estate business that's keeping you so busy right now. I mean, with the holiday season, most of the other lenders I know are slowing down, but you're speeding up and you're staying busy. I'd love to pick your brain and get to know what's got you staying so busy. Is it okay? Or I'm going to give you a call another time to see if you're a little less busy. Right? I'm already working, I only deal with listings. That's cool. I've got a really cool way of helping you get more listings. Keep the ones you got, sell them for top dollar. They're just smoke screens, guys. And the more you practice overcoming those smoke screens and understanding that the objection you're hearing, the reason for it is because they don't know you, they want to get you off the phone, understanding that that's all it is and that you just have to overcome this objection, because the more of these little objections you've got, the easier it is for that person on the other end to make a much better, a more positive buying decision, a yes decision to meeting with you. Each time you overcome an objection, you are one step closer to the sale. Remember, it goes back to those sales statistics. What was it? 3% or 2% of sales take place on the first contact. 4% of sales or 5% of sales take place on the second contact. 8% of sales happen on the third contact, and from the third contact on, 92% of sales happen from contact number 4 on. So it only makes sense. Each time you overcome an objection, you're one step closer to making that sale, to getting them to say yes. So all you got to do is keep blowing those smoke screens away, right? And guys, this is a little bit of a short presentation. No questions popped in while we were talking other than, just to show this again. Does anybody have any questions about today's class about objections? It's important to understand what the objections are and how to overcome them with basic, just really have your, I don't want to make it sound as if you have to have a script in front of you in order to do this effectively, but I believe wholeheartedly that having a script gives you the ability to better prepare yourself for when you get into that situation. When you're on those calls and you're dialing that up and you're trying to get that face-to-face and you get that objection, if you haven't scripted it, it's much harder for you to think off the cuff, to have you're in the heat of the battle, I guess is the way that you would call that when you're talking about phone conversations. It's the heat of the battle. You're in the middle of it. You're in the scrum, so to speak. When you're in that heat of the battle in the scrum, things are going quickly. Your initial request for the meeting happens very quickly. Their initial response happens very quickly. If you have any hesitation or pause in overcoming the objection, what's going to happen is the objection is going to serve its actual purpose, and it's going to clear you off the phone without you having an opportunity to overcome it. Because if you don't overcome it and you clear off the phone, guess what? It takes a smokescreen objection and turns it into real. So if I'm in a conversation and I'm, hey, I understand you're serious about growing your real estate business, and I would love to treat you to a cup of coffee, spend 15 minutes with you, get to know you a little bit better, and find out if there are a few things I can do to help you continue to grow your business. I've got Thursday at 3 or Friday at 2 available, and you say to me, oh, Paul, I'm already working with another lender. And I pause there. Oh, you are? Now it's too late to go right into my overcoming of my script, so I'll talk to you later. Click. Now I can't call you back next week and ask you for another meeting, because you've already told me that you're working with another lender, and I accepted that answer. I accepted that as a reason for us not to meet. I accepted that you said you're working with another lender because I didn't overcome it. I've accepted that answer. And I've accepted it as the reason why we can't meet. So now next week, I can't call you back next week and ask you to meet again, because you've already told me why we can't meet, and I accepted that. The only thing I could do is a couple weeks from now call you up, hey, are you still working with that other lender? You are? Okay. But I'm lost if I don't overcome that objection. Now, next week he may tell me that he's too busy. That's okay. I can overcome that one too. But he can't use the whole I'm working with a lender the second time I call him, because I already told him I wasn't trying to interfere with that. I've already told him I wasn't trying to interfere with that. So it's important to know, and that's why I think it's important to have these scripts, to practice them, so that you know when that thing triggers, when you hear I'm working with somebody else, it triggers in you automatic response. Of course you're working with somebody else. You wouldn't be doing the kind of business that you're doing if you weren't. And I'm not looking to interfere with that at all. Even if you mess up and forget the whole part about bringing it back and asking them again for a meeting or telling them why it would benefit them, or anything about, and I'm like, I'm just wanting to help you try and grow your business, and if we can work together down the line, great. If not, I got an opportunity to meet a really cool real estate business leader and get to know you a little bit better and hopefully help you grow your business. If I forget all that part, if I just remember the part about of course you are, you wouldn't be doing the business you're doing if you weren't working with another lender, and I'm not looking to interfere with that. Even if you forget the rest, you still have a reason to call them back. You're not sunk. You're not stopped because you didn't accept the answer that they're working with somebody else as a reason for us to not meet. You simply said you weren't trying to interfere with that. It's very important designation and very important to make sure that you separate those things. And by having those scripts, you've got the ability to make sure that you're overcoming the objection so that the next time you call again, they can't use that same objection. You've already told them that objection is not on the table. You've already overcome that. So they've got to come up with a different reason to not meet because you've already told them that reason didn't matter to you. Jim's got a question in here. How would you handle this? I am willing to try your service, but I don't know you or trust you. If you bring me a client and show me how you perform, we can talk. I am willing to try your service, but I don't know you or trust you. If you bring me a client and show me how you perform, we can talk. So, Mr. Agent, let me make sure I understand you clearly, and I'll need to think about this one a second. That's a new one, Jim. So what it sounds like the real estate agent is saying, and I may even bring that, if I'm in a live conversation, in that heat of the battle in a conversation, to give myself enough time to think about this, I may actually repeat back this objection for two reasons. It gives me a little bit more time to think about my answer to it. But the second thing is something like this, it's a little bit different, and I want them to, and I want to fully understand that I understand the complete question and that the person that's asked me the question understands what they're asking me. And so the question is, I'm willing to try your service, but I don't know or trust you yet. If you bring me a client and show me how you perform, we can talk. So let me understand, Mr. Agent, is that you're willing to work with me if I bring you a pre-approved one of my buyers? Isn't that me choosing to work with you? I'm a little confused on the question, Mr. Agent, here. So are you referring to bringing you a client, one that I've got pre-approved, ready to go already, and bring them to you as a buyer so that you can find them a perfect home? Wouldn't that be me trying out your service and getting to know and trust you as to whether or not you can find my client the right home? Which I'm more than willing to do if we can find a partnership. What I'd like to do first is figure out let's get to going on some of these ways that we can bring a client together with our efforts together and work them together to determine whether or not we're a good fit. I just want to make sure I'm understanding the question. Now, after hearing it one time, obviously on that, if that was an initial call that I was on, I kind of stumbled through that. So what I would do right now, if we just got off the phone, Jim, first thing I'm doing is I'm writing that objection down. I'm writing it down. And I'm writing down what I said just now. Maybe I don't say to them, you want me to bring you one of my pre-approved clients. Isn't that me trying out your service and figuring out whether or not you're going to be able to service my client as opposed to us servicing a client together, right? I may not be that confrontational. I may stick with I may point out, well, Jim, that kind of would be me more of trying out your services. And just as you don't know and trust me yet, I have the same loyalties to my clients as well. Why don't we work together on some of the ideas on growing your business, and clients that we generate through those efforts will give us an idea as to whether or not we're a good fit for one another. Does that sound fair? And Jim says, that was an actual call. After building some rapport over 6 months, I asked, what do I have to do to get your business? And the above was her reply. I am willing to try your service, but I don't know or trust you. If you bring me a client and show me how you perform, we can talk. And so the way I'd contact her about that, as far as bringing you a client I can show you how I perform and how we get to the closing table, I'm all for it. What I'd like to do, though, because I feel what's the word I'm looking for? I am as vigorous about protecting my clients as you are about protecting yours, which I can imagine that's the reason why you want to have a test run with me first. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about this, the more that I think about this, I'm thinking I may want to go in a different direction with it. This is a good one, Jim, and I'm glad you brought this up today, my friend. And this is exactly what I was talking about a few slides ago when I said when you guys get that oddball objection, write it down and start jotting down, come up with ideas and start scripting out ideas. Because the more I think about this, the more I think that there's a better and an easier way to overcome this. Sally, I can appreciate that you don't know and trust me yet in terms of how I perform and how we do loans. I tell you what would be a fair test. Give me 4 or 5 leads of people who your current referral partner was not able to get done. Let me show you what I can do with those folks. Let me be your second opinion guy on some of the loans your current partner can't get done. Would that be a good indicator as to how I perform? Now, here's the thing, Jim, that's going to require, that's the way I would go. And the reason I would go that way is because, typically somebody that's dealing with that has a relationship with a producer, they're typically fat and sassy. They're cherry picking the deals, and everybody's fat and sassy about it. And so that agent probably has a list of people who inquired about purchasing a home, but for whatever reason or another were unable to do so. That's an opportunity for me to show them, to work an actual deal with them, to show even if I can't get the deal done, it shows my knowledge because I'm going to come back with communication on exactly what happened. Here's what we've got. Here's what it looks like. Here's the reason for it. And here's how I'm going to help them become buyers. I put them into, and I don't know if you've got this or not, Jim, but a credit repair program, move them through. If there's somebody that can't get done for whatever reason, you show them ways that they can, and now you're moving them through, but you've taken those extra steps, and then you go above and beyond and you communicate that to the agent. But the likelihood is if she's willing to do that, share with you, let you be the second opinion guy on some that, let me show you how I perform on some of the deals that your other guy couldn't do. Let me see what I can do. Let me show you how I actually perform. And let's say, lo and behold, she gives you 5 of those leads and you're able to close one of them. And now you're working a transaction with her on a deal that she thought was dead. Now you're a performer. Now you can talk. So I would probably go in that direction. I would probably flip the script on her a little bit. I can certainly appreciate that you don't know and trust me yet in terms of how I do business, how we perform, and how we get to the closing table. I'll tell you what I'd like to do with you. Let me become your second opinion guy. give me 4 or 5 of the people who your current lender couldn't get done, and let me see if there's anything I can do. Let me show you how I perform on files that you thought were dead and gone. If I'm able to do something, fantastic. It gives you a great insight and shows you how we perform. If I'm not, no harm, no foul. Everybody's in the same position they were yesterday. Does that sound fair to you? And then let her reply. That's more of a real objection. See, that's not a smokescreen objection, because she really doesn't know and trust him yet. That's a real objection. But that objection, notice, came, and the comments make sense on this. Jim said he had been courting that agent for 6 months and developing rapport. That's not an objection that came on that first or second or third phone call. That's an objection that came after the opportunity to meet, after they've had a face-to-face, and now he's asking for business. This is an objection for business, and this is a real one that does need to be overcome. And to overcome it, you've got to give her a reason why. You've got to give her a reason to work on a deal together so that she can see how you perform. The best way to do that with an agent that doesn't trust or know you yet is ask her for her dead deals. Ask her for ones that couldn't get done by her primary lender, and tell her you want to be her second opinion guy. Likely, especially if that other lender is fat and sassy and enjoying the relationship and not really working hard for it any longer, the likelihood is you'll have 1 or 2, opportunities within that will actually be closable deals for you. Okay? So boys and girls, that is it for me for today. I hope you learned a little bit of something. I certainly did. I appreciate the sharing and the masterminding that went on today. I appreciate you guys greatly. If you could, head over to the Facebook page, facebook.com/Mortgage Mastermind Group. Give us a little thumbs up on today's class, maybe even make a comment under the picture. Let us know what you thought about it. I certainly appreciate you guys. We will be here on Monday and Wednesday, so plan on joining me for the daily mastermind on Monday and Wednesday. And we'll see you next week. Have a great and safe weekend, everybody. For those of you in the cold, stay warm. And for those of us in the warm, enjoy it. We'll see you guys on the flip side. Have a good day, everybody. Bye now.